All right, y'all. So today we're just going to talk about the book Will. Okay, everybody's here has read the book, and we're just going to give our thoughts on it. First question, just for everybody, is what were your overall thoughts on the book? What did you like best about this book, and what did you like least about it? Anybody can kind of jump in there if you want to tackle it first.
I mean, I'll go first.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, no, you go. You go ahead.
Okay.
Ladies first.
What I liked most about this book, because I actually didn't know he came from such humble beginnings. And I enjoyed him going kind of through his whole life and showing how blessed he was, because it seemed like he had such favoritism that he lucked up with all these great opportunities that just kind of just landed in his hand, and he kind of ran with the opportunity. And I like the fact that he showed all the different lessons that he learned from different things that he went through, from the divorce, from kid issues, marriage, and therapy. And he invested in therapy early on in his second marriage, which I thought was great. So those are some of the things I liked about the book.
All right, Marco, you were trying to get in there.
I mean, growing up, I always was a Will Smith fan. So even like from the movies and stuff like that, I even watched After Earth. So I mean, I was a big
After Earth. Oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that.
Anytime Will make a movie, I pretty much watch, even if it's terrible. So yeah, so I mean, I've always been a fan, and so that's why what made me download I downloaded the Audible version and I thought that Audible version was very entertaining. And like you said, like you learned a lot of lessons from the first chapter of the book, when he was he had to build a wall with his brother.
Yeah.
Like, they were just frustrated and stuff like that. And and his dad, I guess his dad went up to him and was like, hey, just do one brick at a time. Stuff like that. That was a life lesson that, you can't just rush to success. You got to basically start, just one brick at a time, like from the small things, perfect that first to build it. So yeah, even like the relationship with his father and stuff like that, man, I learned a lot from that. That's just from his discipline and all that type of stuff. And you kind of see how he projects that now. So yeah.
What did you like most and least about it? If there is anything you
I wish he would discuss more of the movie stuff. I thought that was I thought he could have discussed more of the movies, if I got to be critical of something. And I thought the ending was kind of like anticlimactic, I think. So yeah, that's the only thing I really can like criticize about it. But I thought it was a great memoir.
Okay. Harold?
Yeah. Now, out of full disclosure, I did not get a chance to read the whole book. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go over what I got. I will get a chance to check it out. It kind of captivated me so much that I was like, wow, I gotta get through all of this.
Right.
But
where did you end at?
I got to chapter 2.
Okay.
I got in the middle of chapter 2. I got a call, and I was Mika was we was having a good little banter about. I was like, I had to read 400 pages in a few hours. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to go through it. By the time I was getting in a roll, a call came in. I had to stop. But anyway, I got a good feel for the intro, and like Marco was saying that the brick building, that was really good. What interests me the most out of everything is, funny enough, how closely his life mimicked mine. And not with the abuse. I didn't have that.
Like his childhood.
Yeah, like his childhood, like the part where he was saying, and this is why I can't wait to finish up, the part where he was saying about how he used humor to kind of like solve everything. I did that intensely my entire childhood. And so, him going through and talking about that. And, I did hip hop. I did rap. I was
Oh,
in a
wow.
group
I didn't
when
know
I was
that.
when I was growing up. I matter of fact, they used to like say, you know, our group was like the Will Smith of South Carolina back in the day, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So because my rap style was very similar to what Will did, because I mimicked him
Oh,
when I
wow.
performed on stage. Yeah. And so our the first part of it was very, very similar. My father was you know, did his own business as well, like Will's father did. And but yeah, so it was very interesting. I thought it was a page turner. I can't wait to finish up the rest of it and find out how everything goes. But yeah, that's so the best part of the movie. I mean, not the movie, the book is the lessons that he was teaching. I love I kind of, this part I think I liked and I didn't like was that he constantly calls himself a coward. And I was like, I admire the fact that he did that and that he let that out. And then at the same time, I was kind of thinking, you know, I felt maybe a little overbearing that he was trying to like push that in, you know, at the very beginning. But other than that, yeah, it was great. I can't, like I said, I can't wait to finish it up.
Okay. Shay, I know you're just hopping in here, but we're just giving our overall thoughts on the book, things we most liked about it, things we may have not liked about it. So you can hop in there if you want to, Shay.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good
I
evening.
am still in the process of listening to the book. I have it on Audible. So far, I think I've gotten through the first 5 chapters. I keep re-listening to them. Just, I don't know, every time I listen to them, I get something new
Okay.
from them. I like how they're so relatable and they give you a different perspective of Will Smith as opposed to what we might have conceived in our minds. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to finishing it and seeing what else he has to say.
Okay, I'll try not, for the folks who didn't finish the book. I know Harold and you, Shay, y'all both didn't finish. I'll try to avoid spoilers too much. But Harold, did you have a physical copy or did you do the Audible?
I did a physical copy.
Okay. I
yeah, I wanted to. And so on Amazon, they have like the first, I guess that first few pages is the Audible, and so I listened to that just to kind of get a feel for the book. But then I ran out and bought it. And there was Barnes and Noble not too far from my house, so I ran and got it, and so I started reading it. And it was really good. And the Audible one sounded great. I mean, I was listening. Yeah, so I heard Will Smith was talking, and then when the Audible one, you know, he would, you know, put emphasis on certain words, on certain phrases. So it was like he was telling a story, and you could feel the emotion during the part of the story that affected him the most. And I thought that, so the Audible sounded like it would have been great. I just started reading it just because I, you know, wanted to kind of do page turners and all that. So
yeah, I think Marco was telling me that with the audio version it was real good because there's parts in the book where he's kind of like he goes through his whole journey and he talks about the time when he started rapping and performing and singing, and he's actually singing and performing. And that I was like, oh man, so I do miss
music with it.
Oh, so it's
there's
like
music with it?
Okay. Yeah, like music with, you know how like in a movie they have like music, you're like, oh, somebody's about to die. Like he had like certain parts of the book, he had like music in the background going with what he's talking about.
See, that I feel like
very entertaining.
Yeah.
Even like the part where he's talking about the church, you know, you could hear like
playing
the piano and stuff like that.
Oh, so there's even like piano music chords playing.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It was hilarious.
Man.
I started listening to it for like I'm like on the second time now. So I'm like, you know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was hilarious. So so if he was talking about church, he had like the choir and the church music in the background while he's talking. Kind of like a little movie. It was interesting.
It made it more interesting. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so I know some of y'all are still early on in the book. For those who have made it through, do y'all have like a favorite quote or something that stuck out in the book? And if so, why did that stick out to you?
I I wouldn't say I have a favorite quote, but I do have something that he talked about in the book that kind of resonated with me.
Okay.
And it was the part where remember when his daughter said, "Hey Dad, I'm done with the show. I don't want to do the show anymore."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "No, we committed to Jay-Z. We gonna finish the show." So he kind of like basically dismissed her feelings. Like,
Right.
"No, Dad, I'm done." So she came downstairs. Instead of her arguing with her father, she basically beat him at his own game. So she just cut her hair.
Mm-hmm.
So she no longer can perform in the show anyway, because the point of her whip my hair is to have hair.
Mm-hmm.
So she cut off her hair. And I like the fact that where he was saying how he dismissed people's feelings, and because he never thought feelings were important. You commit to something, you do it, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter how you feel. And I think a lot of times we always say, "Oh, don't have feelings and put your feelings aside." But like he said, everything involves feelings. Every
Mhm.
decision is made based on feelings. And I think that was powerful for me.
How you said something you could relate to it. That was actually gonna be my follow-up question. Was there something in the book that y'all feel like y'all can relate to? And Harold, he already expressed that he felt like he can relate to his upbringing, but how would what you just described, how do you relate to those points?
I relate to those points because I do feelings is very important to me, but
Mm.
you hear that a lot where put your feelings aside, especially in corporate world, put your feelings aside, just make logical decisions and that's it. And don't put your feelings in it. But there's no way to be a human being and not have some type of feelings towards it. So that was very powerful for me because I think everything that you do, every decision you make in life does involve some type of feeling. It might not be directly related to you. You may have empathy for something that may have happened to something else. So you may have sympathy for somebody for that. So I think a lot of decisions that when he start talking about how impactful feelings are important and how in life, how he dismissed people's feelings, even in his relationships. And another big thing that resonated with me, well, is two things. When he got a divorce, when his first wife divorced him,
Mhm.
she said, "You don't really love me. You love the idea
Mm.
of a
Mhm.
wife,
Mhm.
but that's not necessarily who I am." So
Mhm.
she said he was in love with the ideal of the duties of what a wife should be.
Mhm.
And then going to what the daughter said when she went through that situation with the hair and not wanting to do the show, she said to her mom, "Hey mom, dad image of family is not our family. It's another idea of a different family." So he
Mhm.
had like all these images of like perfect situations, but they were never his direct situation. He always had these ideals of what family should be, how things should go, but they're never directly his situation.
Mm. And how does that like how does that connect with you that particular thing?
Because I used to have ideas of what relationships should be, ideas
Mm.
what a friendship should be. A friendship do you should do this and a person should do this. I have all these ideas of how things should be. And then when things kind of fall apart, you just be like so disappointed on all your preconceived notions of how you think things should have played out.
Mm.
That's
Y'all,
good.
Mika bringing it tonight, y'all.
Yeah, I know, right? Another level. She's taking it to another level.
Yeah. I like it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, let me add. I wanted to. Of course, I've only gotten to the second chapter, but
Mhm.
there was you said about a quote. One of the quotes, and I was pulling it up in the book. That he said. It said, "Only speak when it improves on silence." That's a quote that is, I think, his mom kind of lived by, and I thought that was really, really powerful. I was,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
remember
if
that.
more people did that, this would be a very different world. But
Mhm.
you know, like silence, they always say silence speak volume, right? And so only speaks when it, and you know, when it improves on that. I thought was genius.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that phrase. So
Okay,
So
Marco.
thoughtful.
Marco, do you have a favorite quote or what about something you can relate to in Will's story?
Well, when he was talking about like he said the living is the journey from not knowing to knowing, not understanding to understanding, confusion to clarity. By universal design, you were born to perplexing situations, bewildered. You have one job to figure this shit out. Life is learning and overcoming ignorance. So yeah, I mean, I could relate to that from, you know, just from like, for me, I always have to like, I guess have my touch on things. I guess like I have to know versus like me just like allowing, you know, something greater to, how can I say? Like letting, I mean, I don't want to get biblical or nothing, but basically like
Go ahead,
letting
man.
take control of the situation, something like that.
Right. Testify.
Yeah, just like letting, you know, stuff is not always going to be in my control. It's just basically how I handle the situation is where I'm going to have greater success doing that. So that's one of the quotes I got from reading the book. Yeah.
What about you, Shay? Was there like a quote that stuck out to you or something in his story thus far that you feel like you can really relate to? I think you're muted, Shay.
Oh, I apologize.
No, you're all right.
Wasn't actually a quote. It was the first, not even the first chapter, it's the one before the first. I think it was called The Wall. That one stuck out to me the most because of the song that he made with Lucas Joyner. There was a section, a verse in there that I loved, but didn't quite understand. He would say, brick by brick, building a wall that no one could break. And I was like, well, it's a wall. Of course you can't break it. I don't understand. But listening to that chapter and how he learned from having to build that wall that you have to take things one moment at a time. Right. That if you look at the overall picture or the goal, you can become overwhelmed with everything it takes to get there. But if you take it brick by brick or piece by piece, it's not as overwhelming as it seems, and you can do it.
Yeah, I really like that portion of the book too. When it opened up like that, I feel like it was a strong open. I was like, oh, this book's about to be fire. But a quote that stuck out to me, I actually had several. And Marco, you actually what you just quoted was one of mine. But there's a later on in the chapter, it's a chapter on adaptation. Basically, Will is chronicling like his experience from leaving the Fresh Prince show and kind of moving to LA. And he's talking about like how some people were struggling with this whole change and stuff like that. So he's talking about change here, and he says, change can be scary, but it's utterly unavoidable. In fact, impertinence is the only thing you can truly rely on. If you are unwilling or unable to pivot and adapt to incessant, fluctuating tides of life, you will not enjoy being here. Sometimes people try to play cards that they wish they had instead of playing the hand that they've been dealt. The capacity to adjust and improvise is arguably the single most critical human ability. So I thought that was powerful.
That is powerful.
And one more quote. This is the other quote that really stuck out to me. Talking about this is in chapter on desire. He's talking about clarity of mission. He says, clarity of mission is a powerful cornerstone of success. Knowing what you want gives direction to your life. Every word, every action, every association can be accurately chosen and harnessed to precipitate your desired outcome. What you eat, when you sleep, where you go, who you talk to, what you allow them to say to you, who your friends are, can all be corralled and launched toward your wildest dreams, corralled and launched toward your wildest dreams. So he's just kind of talking about just getting focused and getting on point with stuff. So that's what I have on that. But my next question, y'all, is do y'all feel like, I know some of y'all hadn't made it far through the book, but do y'all feel like Will was like if y'all had to rate Will in terms of honesty, give him a grade, where would y'all rate him at in terms of like this? Because this was a memoir. He's kind of opening up. Like if you had to give him a grade, you know, A to F, well, what would you give him?
I'll start. So far, I would definitely give him an A. I mean, I think, you know, there's definitely parts that had to be painful to write. And then whenever you're writing a memoir, when you're touching on such painful topics about, you know, abuse of your mom and how your dad was, I think just getting all that out had to be rough. So as of right now, I would give him an A. I'll definitely see if my grade changes as I make my way through the book. But yes, that's what my grade is right now.
All right. Marco?
I'll give him an A. Even though it was some, you know, like I said, like the ending was kind of, you know, I wanted more for the ending.
But we're just grading him on honesty.
On honesty?
Yeah.
I think I'll give him an A.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got for you.
All right, Mika.
I would give him an A on honesty.
Yeah.
I think he opened up about a lot of things in his life and spoke on it in hindsight 2020. So I definitely think I would give him an A on honesty.
Yeah, I'd give him like a B plus, just because I feel like he opened up a lot, especially he opened up a lot, especially on like his past. But I don't feel like he opened up a lot on his present situation in his marriage. I mean, I know there's, you know, I guess everybody's gonna kind of read the book and they're looking for those juicy details.
But does that mean he was dishonest or he just didn't disclose? It seemed like
he disclosed, but it's kind of like it's like one of those like white lie type things. Like
right.
Like you
I get what you're
stuff.
saying, because he didn't disclose a lot of stuff of him and Jada throughout the marriage. But I don't know if I would say he was dishonest. It seemed like they made a pact, like, hey, don't be telling our business in the book.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he was being dishonest. I just don't think he was being 100% honest.
He left it out.
Sense. Yeah, he just left it out. He omitted
Yeah.
certain things, which is understandable. I guess he didn't want it to be kind of more salacious. He just kind of wanted to, I guess he's just trying to tell a story. Not really a story, tell his story in a way that
I was actually surprised that he didn't tell more, because in the media, it seemed like they're always telling their business. On Red Table Talk, her show that she has on Facebook, it seemed like she divulged a lot of personal information. So I was actually very surprised on how much he did not disclose about their relationship.
Yeah, on that Red Table. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mika.
No, I was just gonna say, like, he didn't even touch on kind of like the openness of their marriage. He didn't touch on kind of a lot of stuff that's been discussed throughout interviews throughout the years.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna piggyback on. I know that they came out publicly, they have an open marriage.
Right.
And so so that would be interesting that wasn't talked about in the book, because I was actually looking, you know, as I was going through it. I know that's, you know, much later in the book, but I was like, okay, are they going to talk on this? Are they not? I was kind of curious on that.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit about it, because
maybe that's going to be in her book though. Maybe she's going to.
Oh, you mean maybe it's in the written book, but not the audio
memoir.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know what? Maybe you're right. I'll read when I go through it. Well, Ricardo has gone through he read through it, so I guess he would know if it's in there or not.
About what?
About his open marriage.
The open marriage in the
book. They talked about a little bit. It was like a very brief little blip. Okay. They didn't go into details, and that's why I kind of took my honesty score a little bit. That's why I gave him a B plus, because he just didn't really go 100% into it, but he addressed it for a second. But now we'll get to that in a second. But one of the major themes of the book that I found was like approval for seeking approval of others. That was something that Will kind of struggled with a lot. And not to give too much away, but a lot of it dealt with his relationships. And at one point, this was on page 142, he says, "The entire basis of my self-esteem was foundationally dependent upon whether my woman was happy. My self-image was exonerably bound up in a woman's opinion and approval of me. And later on in another chapter, I'm not going to give too much of the details of why he wrote this, but he said, as long, somebody was talking to Will, a therapist actually, she said, as long as you do things for the approval of a woman, you will never be free.
I like that part. I remember that towards the end. Yeah, that's at the end.
And then he said, a little later on in that same chapter, there's a question that was asked of him. He said, can you find safety in yourself and not from some external source of approval? Can you become a freestanding man? And that, some reason that really resonated with me. Not because, you know, I feel like I'm like, I struggle a lot with seeking the approval of other people, but just because it's just like that whole thing about being a freestanding man, just like kind of you know, not, you know, living life and not really living life in a way that you're seeking the approval of others. You know, I thought that was real interesting. So the question I kind of want to ask is, do y'all feel like that's a thing? And you know, I don't want to get gender specific because I suppose it's something that everybody can kind of struggle with. Do y'all feel like that's a thing that people struggle with, is like seeking the approval of others, especially when it comes to relationships?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely, I like that part when he was discussing with his, I don't know if she was called a therapist or a meditation specialist or whatever. And when she gave him that information, and at that point, he realized he has always been a people pleaser, in which I think a lot of people have. I think I even myself, I think I would say I, over the years and throughout life, at some point was a people pleaser, where I may not give them the right answer, but I may give them the most politically correct answer without really saying my truth. And so when I was reading that and hearing that in the book, I kind of clearly understood what she was saying to him, and how, and one of the other things was powerful for me when he said, as far as the happiness, where happiness come from. And he was saying it's based on what you put out in life, not so much what you are receiving from someone. And I think that is very impactful. The giving and how much you give out in life does create more powerful happiness than versus just doing things just to please people.
Yeah, that's powerful.
What
do you fellas think?
I mean, I think he was trying to please even like at an early age, even with his father. Like he felt like he had to like put on a show just so he wouldn't have like a bad mood or bad temper or be abusive towards, you know, his mom. So he's at a very young age with the trying to be a people pleaser.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I felt like I was a people pleaser. Sometimes I feel like it in this day and age, even though I'm, you know, trying to, you know, I guess move past that. But, you know, there are people in your life who you really, you know, want to please, right? There are people who you care about and you want to make happy. And then there are other people who have your well-being not at the forefront of their mind, and you still, you know, please them. And so, and I think it goes back to childhood. I think a lot of that goes back to your childhood, how you're raised, how you're interacting. You know, they say the first relationship a guy has is with his mother, right? With a woman, right? And so that sets the drumbeat. Same thing with the woman. The first relationship a woman has is with her father. A woman has with a man is with her father. And so that sets the drumbeat. So his relationship with his mother dictated his relationship going forward about pleasing. And he said in the part that I read that he wanted to be in control. He said that he was the oldest boy. He saw his mom getting, you know, struck by his dad, and he didn't have control. And so, but I think the whole people pleasing part comes from that, and it's hard to break out of that, you know, because I know that it happens. I find myself doing it, and I'm like, wow, why am I saying this? Why am I doing this? And it's just because like Mika said, you know, you just you do it, you know, corporate world, and that kind of brings that out of you. And so, but yeah, it's one of those things that it's hard for me to kind of get out of that. But I think if I had to pick one battle that I've been working on, it is that
people pleasing
mm-hmm.
and just getting out. Yeah, that's strong. And you talked about him in control, feeling like he doesn't have control. I think it's toward the end of chapter 1. He said, I made a silent promise to my mother, to my family, to myself. One day I will be in charge, and this would never, ever happen again. Talking about him laying his hands on his dad, laying his hands on his mom.
Exactly.
And it's real powerful when you just think about life and you think about how, you know, Harold, you know, we're all adults here. And we're, you know, a lot of times there's still stuff that we have that, you know, that we can date back to our childhood that we're still kind of battling today. And it just kind of talks about the importance of just like those formative years in your life, making sure that they're shaped appropriately. And if they weren't shaped appropriately, like as an adult, trying to get that help and get that therapy to kind of, you know, become a better person and work on that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And
You know, it's so funny. There was a part in the book where, and like I was saying earlier about how I mimicked my life. There was a part in the book, like he wasn't a fighter. I could not fight when I was younger, right? I got into a few fights and I lost them all, to tell you the truth. And so there was a time where we had bullies in my neighborhood, and they were, you know, bullying me, and I was like, you know, I could be like 7 or 8 years old, and I was like crying, ran to the house, and my older brother came outside, and he pretty much fought the bullies. And he kind of, and my older brother's like 8 years older than me. So if I was 8, he must have been like 16. And he came out and he just kind of like, like, hey, leave my little brother alone. And they all ran off. And I related to that because he said his sister did that to him. And that kind of made me mimic, you know, some of the stuff. And because of that, when I got older, I took karate, and I went up to, I got up to a mid-purple belt in karate. And the reason why that happened was because, you know, I couldn't fight when I was younger. I'd never learned how to do it. And then, you know, when I got into karate and learned that, there was this power, even though I never used it, it was kind of crazy because I had this power. And that's one of those things that happen when you're younger, like Will was, and he felt cowardly. And he said he, you know, didn't feel control. I kind of felt the same way. And the learning how to fight when I got older kind of felt like I got control. Everybody does it in a different way, but that was my way of doing it. And I appreciate to this day.
Yeah,
and he talked on, speaking on what Harold just said. And remember when I think it was the director, when they were talking about the Muhammad Ali movie, and he asked Will to go somewhere to, show him how he punched. And he realized that he had to teach him how to fight prior to him even teaching him about the movie. And I thought, oh, okay, this is great. But that's why I thought he was so honest, because a lot of people, probably men, wouldn't have written all that truth about those portions, those things in life. And I thought he was so honest about that, speaking on that. And, the Tupac situation, that was just pure honesty to me.
Before we move on to the next topic, Shay, did you want to get in there at all? I know you're driving, it's a little noisy. I think she unmuted for a second, then muted back up. I guess it's a no. But if you want to hop in, Shay, at any time, just go ahead and butt in. We understand you have circumstances going on. And I'm not gonna hold y'all too long, y'all. I just have a few more questions. All right. There's a part in the book where Will, after Fresh Prince is over, and he's moving from Philly to LA. He says this. He says, I have since realized the critical importance of environment. Choosing the city you live in is as important as choosing your life partner. That was on page 149. Agree or disagree? We'll go with Shay because she missed out on the last question. We'll go with Shay first. Agree or disagree with that, Shay?
Thank you. I 100% agree.
Why? Okay.
Because at least for me, I know that there are certain things that I need to have to be happy. I need to be in a place where walking is basically essential. Having to drive everywhere drives me crazy. I love being outside. And then the opportunities that you need as well. They have to be available in your city.
Okay. Mika, agree or disagree?
No, I don't fully agree with that statement. I think I only agree with it when you work in certain industries. I think, yeah, if you work in Hollywood, yeah, that would be very important, but I don't think overall that's very important, especially with this world is so going forward to remote. I don't think so. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Harold or Marco, agree or disagree? Will's thoughts on that?
I agree. I mean, basically, like where you pretty much gonna like lay your roots down is where you're gonna be pretty much. So I guess having that life partner there with you is very important. So I kind of agree to it. I mean, I thought about it today, but yeah, I think it's important.
You agree that it's as important? Like where
I
you
think,
live is as important as your life partner?
yeah, I agree that it's as important.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a hard question. I probably would say your life partner is like this super important choice that you have to make, right? I mean, it is you have this intimate relationship with your life partner that I don't know if you necessarily can have with a city. And you have this, I mean, you're building a family, you know, in certain cases, you're building this great environment. And, you know, depending on who you with, that person can make wherever you're at an incredible spot. Like if you're a city person, right, and you love going out and going out to clubs and going out to restaurants, but then you meet this incredible woman and you're living the country, you know, she may do like these picnics in the park where she would make that environment much more pleasant. So, I mean, if you look at it from that standpoint, the relationship that you would have with the individual should pretty much supersede where your environment is, because that should kind of be irrelevant because except for I think how Mika touched on about your career, you know, but other than that, I think your personal relationship should supersede any place you live.
Okay. It's a tough one because it's nuanced and it's layered. But I think that I would agree with Will Smith. I think being in the right environment, not only career-wise, which was one of his driving forces, because you know his career really took off when he put himself in the right atmosphere, in the right environment, right location. But I think just in terms of life, in terms of not only like your because I think your life partner is one thing, but also in life we have other people in our lives, you know. And I think a lot of that comes, you know, you build these relationships based off of location. So we're talking about friendships. We're talking about like if you're, you know, like if you know if you're a person who likes to go out, like Shay was talking about, she doesn't like driving. She likes access to certain like, you know, public transportation and get around and stuff like that. So for someone like her, or she just wants to be within walking distance, her environment is going to be important. So I think maybe it just depends on the individual, but I think I largely agree with Will there that it's as important. Because I feel like, at least for me, I feel like things in my life took off for the better once I moved from Virginia. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I guess it just depends. It depends on people's outlook, you know.
Yeah, it's a case by case. So you know,
Yeah.
one person's going to feel one way, the other person's going to feel another. So
All right. My next question is on marriage. Okay, so we started to talk a little bit about Will and Jada and marriage, but page 262, this is when Will and Jada are kind of, he's talking about like his first introductions to Jada and him introducing Jada to his family. And he says this: Jada didn't believe in conventional marriage and despised the traditional ceremony. She also had questions about the viability of monogamy as a framework for successful long-term relationships. So there's so many things that can be unpacked there. But do y'all think that, I guess it's almost a no-brainer kind of question, but I think I more or less want to ask, like, this is a no-brainer, because I kind of know everybody here, and I know people's thought on that things, but I more or less want to know, why do y'all, well, let me ask this. Why do y'all think Jada questioned if monogamy is viable for long-term successful relationship?
I want to hop
And is
in
it possible to kind of get into, do y'all think it's possible for people who have opposing views on that? Like if Will's more conventional and if Jada is more modern or something like that, you know, is it possible for those two people to come together? So I guess the first part of the question is, why would Jada think this? And is it possible for two people who have opposing views to kind of come together? So we're gonna go to Harold first, and then we're gonna go to Shay.
Yeah. So I think Jada probably feels that way. I mean, I don't, of course, know her, but normally when there's a monogamous, when people don't want to be in a monogamous relationship, it almost dates back to they were in love, they were cheated on, and then it broke them heart. I have a great example. I have a family member who lives in LA, and he's a kind of like a ladies' man, right? And so he came to Atlanta. This was years and years ago, and we went out and we went to this club and we was hanging out. We got back home late and we went to Denny's and grabbed something to eat. And we had this in-depth conversation, and we've never had a conversation like this prior or after. But I asked him, I was like, why do you like go from woman to woman? Like, why do you bounce around like that? And he said he never wanted to be that way. He said that his the first girlfriend he had, he loved very much, and knowing his return, she cheated on him, and he said it hurt his heart. And so men don't grieve as well as women. And so what happens is that sometimes when we get hurt, we take it out in different ways, and sometimes it's not the most productive ways. A lot of time it's not. And so I think what happened is with Jada, again, not knowing her past, that she probably had true love, because she was with Tupac, right? Her and Tupac were really close. So she grew up in a pretty rough area. So she probably had love, and then it probably either didn't work out or she got really hurt. And instead of trying it again, she probably just shies away from it and shies away from true monogamy, of throwing herself completely into a relationship to prevent herself from being hurt. That's my personal take on it.
All right, Shay, what you got?
To piggyback off of what Carol said, I don't know her history either, but my first thought was she might have had family members, uncles, brothers, fathers who were never faithful. I think that was the first question you asked. And then the second question was if you think this could work with opposing views. Is that your second question?
Like the two people kind of come together if they have opposing views.
I don't believe so. And I haven't finished the book or got to that part in the book, but if one is a people pleaser, such as Will was, it would function for a while because they are a people pleaser. If they ever got to the point where they stopped people pleasing, it would not function at all, because they would see the things they wanted, the things they didn't want, and what they were willing to do or not do.
Yeah, you're gonna get there. He kind of goes into that somewhat, and yeah, it's interesting. Mark or Mika, did y'all want to get in there?
Ask the question again.
I asked, like, how do y'all think Jada came to the view that monogamy wasn't a framework for long-term successful relationships. And I guess the second part was like, if two people have opposing views, like one person doesn't believe that and the other person does believe it, like, can those two come together?
I think they could come together because Will and Jada did come together, and that was not his view. But I think he was so fascinated with Jada and how she think, and she was very selfless, that he kind of fell in love with her anyway and was like, I'll try it out. I kind of, well, I watch Jada on the Red Table Talk a lot. So so I kind of know her views about that, and her views about it comes from like the sexual part of a relationship. So that's her views. And then she had a sex addiction many years ago and stuff like that. But I do think that two people can come together that have different views. Now, do I think it will be a healthy and wholesome and non-toxic relationship? Maybe not.
Right.
As we can see with Will and Jada marriage throughout the years of entanglements and sorts of things. But I think the best relationships is people that have the same value system, most importantly. And I think those are the healthier relationships.
I agree. So I was about to grill you. Like, hold on, like you said, they come together. Well, like, you finish the book like me. It doesn't seem like, I walked away from it, didn't get the feeling that. I just got the feeling like it was just like they were just like marriage and title only, but
right. And I think they have made a commitment to each other that no matter what, they're going to stay together. So whatever it takes Jada to make herself happy, do it. Whatever it takes Will to make himself happy, go ahead and do it. But at the end of the day, we're staying together as a family. So that's their point of marriage. So she can have a boyfriend, he can have a girlfriend, but at the end of the day, we're still husband and wife, and we still have a family.
Agreed.
I agree with what Mika said though. I think she feels like she probably, has to have like, multiple people in order to, feel happy. Like each person has pretty much their role in the relationship. So I mean, that's what I got from, her not feeling like, a monogamous relationship would be, healthy or long term. I don't necessarily know if that will work for them because he seems like he's more, I guess, structured or whatever,
Not anymore. He's not. He has a girlfriend too.
Well, okay, yeah.
But he didn't say that in the book, and that's
he
why
doesn't say that. But
that's why
if you
I
in
couldn't give
other
him the honesty.
interviews, yeah, yeah, he didn't say
So
it
I
in
guess
the
it does
book.
work. I take that. I guess it does work.
All right, y'all. So we're closing in on the hour mark, and I just have one more question, then we'll give our closing remarks, okay? But later on, we're talking about marriage, and we're talking about marriage again here. I don't know, for some reason, I feel like relationships have just really been a hot button issue in society today, and everybody's kind of talking about it. So a lot of these questions kind of come from that. But Will and Jada, they're having issues in their marriage. It's publicly we can see that, and they go to therapy. And then the therapist has them write down their priorities. And Jada's, I think I might have two questions with this, but Jada's priorities was 1, the children, 2, Will, 3, herself, and 4, extended family and friends. All right. So that's Jada. She went children, Will, herself, family, and friends. Will had went himself, Jada, the children, his career. And that really shocked Jada, and she busted out crying and bawling. And I didn't, I never got the impression from that chapter that she came to terms with that. But let me ask this: was there anything? Do y'all think there was anything wrong with the way either of them prioritized their priorities I guess that's the first question. Was there anything wrong with the way either of them prioritized their priorities? The second question is which one do y'all most align with? Like which priority list order do y'all most align with? And then
Neither.
okay, and then the third was, what was my third question? Can people with different priorities come together again? So we're gonna go with Mika first because she was she very getting her. So you got the questions, Mika?
I okay. So I do remember both of their priorities. None of them had any biblical base at all. So none of them said God at all. And Jada put her children before her husband when it's not really supposed to go that way. So I didn't align with any of their priorities. And I do think in order to have a successful relationship, your priorities should be similar line together. And if you kind of just, not to really go biblical, but if you kind of follow the Bible, then you will have the same priority list, truthfully.
Let's say that you put God in there at the top for both of them. Would you say you align with Will's?
No, I wouldn't, because Will was basically self, like if I take care of myself first, I can help everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So
how should the list ideally go?
I would think the list would be God first, and husband and wife on that same row. You take care of your husband and take care of yourself, and then children.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it would go for me.
Okay. Anybody, y'all, what do y'all think? We'll go with Harold.
I once again, not to buff up Mika, but yes, I agree with that. The same thing: God first, a husband and wife, and then children. There was a study that was done, and I don't know, Ricardo, if you remember. I think I was saying this when we were all kind of in the huddle after people had kind of left the party, and there was a study done in I think it was the University of Arizona. And they studied, I think, 1,000 couples, and they studied them for a few years. And the divorce rate in America is like over 50%. But when they studied these couples prayed on a regular basis. Now, they didn't define what a regular basis was, but the couples that prayed regularly had a divorce rate of less than 1%. And so, I mean, just that anecdotal study kind of showed that, having God first is what is one of the foundations of a relationship. And so I think that that's super important. And as far as being aligned, I think a lot of people have a list that are not aligned, but they kind of, how you just said they're married in name only. I think a lot of couples are kind of like that. I had a conversation about that with the guy a while ago, and we were talking about how, when there's a marriage, are you couples or your roommates? And I think a lot of couples are roommates when they don't have those values that are aligned. They're still married on paper. They, may not cheat, but as far as that marriage, where it's a growing God-fearing marriage, I don't think it works when you're not aligned. So
let's go with Shay. What do you think, Shay?
I think I align with Will's more. But if I had to change it for both of them, I would put yourself first, then your family and friends, and then whatever you need to maintain your life and your lifestyle.
Would you put your spouse above your children, or children then spouse?
I would group them all together because they're just different relationships. You cannot compare the two.
What if you had to
I,
separate
I wouldn't.
it?
I would love my children, but I'm not in love with them like I am in love with my spouse. That's a whole different relationship. I'm going to give each of them what they need.
So they have equal priority.
Not all the time, because sometimes one is more of a priority than another. It just depends. It's not always equal.
All right. Marco, what do you think?
Well, like I agree with Mika and Harold as far as like especially like biblical, you're supposed to put God first and then your husband or wife, then your children. So I definitely I would use that list versus either of those. Like I don't really agree with Will or Jada's list in that situation.
So you agree with Will's if he just put God at the top,
No, I agree with you put God first and then
right?
you put your husband or wife. In his situation, you'll put your wife,
Right.
then your children.
And where do you fall in?
Where do I fall in?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like you got to put yourself in the list. Like where do you prioritize yourself at?
Okay. I mean, I would put myself after I put myself after God.
Okay. I was about to
Yeah.
say because you're my friend, and I don't.
Right.
I would think that you put yourself like even you put your family above yourself. I feel like, or not that you don't feel like that's the case.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, I'm not married or anything, but I
Right.
mean, for now, yeah, definitely I put my kids before, pretty much a lot of stuff. But God is always first, no matter what. But if I get married, for instance, then I would have to put my spouse in that situation,
Mhm. Do you think that people with different priorities, like if their lists are prioritized different, like if you have somebody that puts you above themselves, could that work?
I mean, I guess it all depends. If you're looking at the biblical way, then no, it doesn't work. But I mean, different people have their own, views about it. But
Right.
yeah.
I think if you put God at the top of Will's list, I don't I didn't see anything wrong with Will's list. And I kind of feel like that's kind of how I live my life. Like, and I'm not married and I don't have children, but I wonder if
right,
any of that would change if that were the circumstances. But I
right.
found it odd that Jada was really shocked at Will's list and she felt like it was a problem, you know?
She got a
'Cause
problem with it.
yeah, I
So
mean, neither of them were spiritual people, but just take that aside. Like they had a problem with she had a problem with Liz. I just found that to be really odd. Like I don't know. I mean, I think it's
the
good.
birthday party.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so y'all,
Right.
Marco and Mika, read. What do y'all think about that? The birthday party thing. What do y'all make of that?
I kind of get her. I kind of get where she was coming from. Like that pretty much wasn't for her. It was more for his ego to make himself feel better about doing something for her. So I totally I agree with her in that aspect. But at the same time, I'm kind of like that he did all this for you, and then you reacted like that. So I kind of go both ways with that one. What y'all think?
Go ahead, Mika.
I think that happens a lot, even with parents and their kids' birthday party. I done been to was supposed to be a little kid birthday party, and it's a whole bunch of adults, and it looks like a adult party. But I think she overreacted, and I think she didn't look at the bigger picture, because ultimately it was for her.
Mhm.
So I think that happens a lot. But her 50th, he wasn't even there, so I guess he must have said like, okay, I ain't doing that no more.
Listen,
Yeah, I felt okay. I'm gonna start and give my closing remarks on the book. And I'll piggyback on that right there. I walked away from the book kind of feeling bad for Will, man. I felt bad for Will in a lot of respects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't feel like anything was wrong with him wanting a conventional relationship. And his wife rebelled against him, his kids rebelled against him, and then he's looking for answers, and
Right.
he's struggling with that. And he's going on this journey. Y'all will see it as y'all read the book, Shay and Harold. But it looks like he's going on this journey looking for answers and trying to like figure out things. But I looked at like Will's path, and I looked at like what he did to get to where he was. Like I looked from where he went from Fresh Prince to when he moved to LA, and then he started starring in movies, and then he did the Ali movie, and then he started like really going real hard and really like getting a playbook for his life and his career. And I feel like he was on an upward trajectory, and he couldn't be stopped. You know what I mean? And he kind of details that. He was #1 in the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Big Willie.
Yeah, Big Willie weekend was a thing. He was killing it, and I don't think there was anything wrong with him doing that. But it just, I don't know. I walked away from it with a lot of questions, wondering like, because now he's peaked. I think he's peaked in terms of his career in box office. He's still a very big, well-known name. But I have questions like, I wonder like, where does he go from here? Like how's he going to live his life? Like, like what's going to happen with his marriage? What is he going to find happiness? Is he going to stop seeking the approval of people? Like where does Will go from this? So I walked away feeling a little sad for Will. I felt like it was a great story. His career was on an uptrend, and he hit those highs, but he couldn't sustain it. And it really wasn't, I guess it was some his fault, but I also feel like his family had a lot to do with it. So it was, I don't know. I walked away with a lot of questions, but I was inspired. Okay, I see Shay has to go. Let me see. Did she want to see here? So for allowing me, you have to go get ready for my classes. Okay, Shay, thanks for joining us, Shay. But yeah, do you want to have a closing remark, Shay, or you just got to go?
No, I haven't finished the book, so I don't think I will be able to have those until I do. But thank you guys so much for allowing me to join you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's just my takeaway. I feel bad for Will, but also like I was inspired by his story. I was inspired by his come up. There was so many things that I kind of took away from it. Quotes. I'm going to refer back to this book in my future. I mean, my book is marked up. I have highlights, things that inspired me. When he was working on the Ali book, the Ali movie, he talked about how he like they did like a boxing and training camp, and they had this thing where he was living his life like a fight camp. And I thought that was inspiring. And I was like, man, if you want to get to that next level, it takes dedication and perseverance. So there's a lot, yeah. But overall, I like the book. Thought it started off real strong. I feel like the last third or quarter, it started to wane off a little bit. I didn't feel like there was any finality or any closure that we got, because like you said, Marco, earlier,
Right.
It was just like he's just jumping from a plane. But I guess it's like that's his life. He's still, he's in his 50s. He still, he still has a life to live. His story's not done yet. There might be a part 2 when he's older, and we will get some answers. But I feel like there was no closure or finality to it. But overall, I think it was a really, really, really solid book, and I would recommend it. Marco, what's your closing remarks?
I mean, just I love like just the relationships, that made him who he was, like who he is. Even like from his father teaching him, about discipline, and even though he's abusive and all that stuff, he taught him about like hard work and stuff like that. His mother teaching him about like just learning and knowledge and all that type of stuff. And his grandma teaching him about love and religion and all that. So, I mean, I think, that made him who he is today. So I thought it was a great book, man. Like I said, like you said, like the ending was a little like anticlimactic, but I mean, overall, I thought it was a solid piece of work.
Okay. Harold or Mika? Let's go with Harold, because I know you haven't finished yet. But is it like, from what you've read so far, are you looking forward to finishing the book?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be reading it tonight, actually, right before I go to bed. I normally, work until about 1 or so, but I think I'm gonna stop around 11:30ish or so and knock out a chapter or two. But no, so far, it's great. I'm glad you picked this. book to read, and I think it's a so far it's a great read. And like I said, growing up, Will Smith was always kind of an idol. I got his album, Girls That Are Whirling Up But Trouble. I had that album. I got the Parents Just Don't Understand album. And I went to a concert when he came to South Carolina when I was a teenager. He came and they played a concert. I actually met Jazzy Jeff in person.
Wow.
I was a rapper. Funny story. I used to rap when I was in high school, and we performed, and Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince came to Columbia, South Carolina, and we drove up there to go to the concert. After the concert, we went to the hotel where they were staying, and Jazzy Jeff was actually standing in the parking lot. And so I actually gave Jazzy Jeff a tape of me rapping. And so Jazzy Jeff was literally the nicest guy you ever want to meet. But yeah, so I really loved, I was a really big fan of Will Smith growing up. I mean, since I was a teenager, right? So I followed him through the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to the first, feature film of Independence Day. And so I was really happy that he let go, and exposed himself like this. And because, he did expose a lot of information about his personal life. Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really excited about it. And I can't wait to get through the rest of the book. So far it's definitely a great read. And I'm probably going to get this as a gift, buy it again and give it as a gift to my niece, who's actually an avid reader. I think she'd really love this too.
Yeah, I think it's a great read, a great gift for people, especially around with Christmas coming up. Mika.
My thoughts, my closing. I enjoyed the book and in the lessons that I learned through this book. The only thing, he didn't have a whole bunch of struggles to me, except his child. To me, his career kind of went on an upward spiral all the way through his career. So to me, he had a lot of favoritism on his life, to me, from them meeting Russell Simmons and Russell Simmons teaching his manager the game, then him meeting the person that was over Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, then Quincy. I just didn't see like a lot of Hollywood hiccups at all that he could have had them. He just didn't talk about them in the book. So everything to me is like he got an opportunity, he ran with it. He got an opportunity, he ran with it. To me, most of his struggles in life, to me, is he married the wrong woman. And I think he was, to me, a traditional man that believed in love. He got hurt at an early age. The woman he really loved, she cheated on him. And then I think him and his first wife could have worked things out, but he entertained Jada prematurely prior to officially closing that door. He got so fascinated with her that he didn't get a chance to work things out. Jada wasn't in the picture when his first wife said, "Hey, I want to move forward with our family." I think they would probably still be married to this day. And she's more traditional of what his image of marriage and a wife is over Jada. So I think, to me, ultimately his struggles to me is that he married the wrong woman, but he was such a survivor and like, I'm not going to quit, that he just stuck it out.
That's a very interesting take. When I agree with you. There wasn't a lot of struggle, but to me, I don't really. I feel like he had a lot to do with his success, because I feel like he was just executing on a very high level. But I do agree with you, there wasn't a lot of struggle, and I do agree that most of his struggles did come from picking the wrong spouse. But do you remember what he attributed his like the failure of his first marriage to, or one of the factors?
She divorced him, and then remember when he had that conversation with Quincy, And Quincy was like, shoot, if somebody don't want to be with me, let them go. Move
Mhm.
on, pay her the money. You gonna make that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it wasn't like Quincy was like, because he seeked a lot of his mentor information. You
Mhm.
know, when he was seeking his next move, he relied a lot on, you know, other people that did life prior to him. And I think if Quincy was like, hey, you need to fight for your marriage, she's a good woman, I think his thought process would have been a little bit different.
Mhm.
But Quincy's like, shoot, she don't want to be with you, move on. And at that time, he was, you know, getting in his ego and starting to be a superstar. And that's probably why they still have that weird kind of partnership, all three of them, because I think he loved her enough that they could have worked it out, but he had already started to entertain that situation with Jada prior to him even being officially divorced.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. One of the things he did attribute to the end of the first marriage was, I don't know if y'all remember this part, but he said that he was in one of the movies and he was doing method acting, and he felt like he kind of got stuck in character, and he fell in love with his co-star, and then he like, you know, he began to like have attributes of the character he was playing at home. And there was a part in the book where he attributed a lot of the downfall of his marriage to that role, you know, the method acting. And
Okay.
he had talked
Mhm.
about like who we think of as ourselves is a self construct, like we create who we are. And he felt like with the method acting, that kind of took him to a different kind of place, and his family and stuff wasn't recognizing wasn't recognizing him.
Like 6 Degrees of Separation movie.
Yeah. He did method acting, and he just got lost in it. That's what he said. He didn't, but he even said he didn't want to make an excuse, but he felt like that was a contributing factor.
All right.
But yeah, I agree with you, Mika. You mean picking the spouse selection is very important. It's huge. But
It is.
that's a conversation for another day, and we're going to have the conversation. We're definitely going to have the conversation.
Yeah.
That's
But
the next.
yeah, we're gonna have that conversation for real. But we're gonna end this, y'all. But again, thank y'all so much for attending this book discussion. If y'all have any recommendations for the next book, let me know. And we're gonna do it again. Maybe we'll do it like every quarter or something like that, because I know everybody's time is limited, and books can kind of be time consuming. But if y'all have a book recommendation, let me know, and we'll do it again.
Okay. This is cool. Thanks.
Do we scorch earth?
Scorcher.
Scorch earth.
All right, everybody. Bye.
All right.
All right.
Have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.